violation if you charge them for a pet fee.
Correct.
Okay.
So it is illegal to ask people for papers to prove that a dog is a service animal. You will know if it's a service animal if it's doing a job. Okay? Service animals are dogs. They're not anything else but a dog. Sometimes they're ponies, but not here, not in Long Beach. They're not ponies. So you will know that it is a service animal because it's doing a job. Service animals do specific jobs. They're specifically trained and they are not companion animals. Okay? A lot of people have companion animals, and these are the little rescue animals that they picked up and they carry around. Those are not service dogs. Service dogs help the blind see. Service dogs help people who have epilepsy, remind them to take their pills or something like that. You will know a service dog when you see it. Okay? So, I mean, the ADA, the Americans with Disabilities Act, covers us, and it says that service animals are protected, not companion animals. However, you can get into a companion animal fight if you want to. We're out of it. So, I mean, and sometimes you will get into a fight with people about companion animals. They will swear that that's a service animal. And all I can do is tell you the regulation. I'll send you what you can cite. And I'm writing that down. That'll be a part of Thursday's email.
My question is, if someone is trying to use American without a disability, they say that's a companion animal. Well, companion animal, you're saying, is not the same as a service
Correct.
animal.
Service animals are very specific. They're very specific, and they are to help. They've been trained for specific deeds, and mostly it's for blind people.
No, the other part of it is you said you cannot ask them for verification or proof.
Not for a service animal, because you see that you can't make them show proof. And it gets tricky when you're talking about a companion animal, because you can't ask them for proof. What you can ask them is, what is he trained to do? What is your dog trained to do? And whatever they say, you can say that is not on the list of ADA approved tasks. And I'll send you that list.
¿Y cuánto es?
Okay? And that's how you do that.
I'm getting a sense when you see something that's questionable, call the who's at you call Victoria Munfrey, right? Or do we call you?
And it depends. When you see something that's questionable about what?
For example, that pet, and you want to get advice on how to approach it, because you guys know this area better than we do as new owners.
You can call me. You know, don't mind companion animals, but they would have to pay the pet deposit. Well, I mean, as far as we're concerned.
Well, see, here's what I'm thinking. If someone has a pit bull and they said, this is my service animal.
I mean, I've never seen anybody do that, but if they do, then you ask them what task is he trained to do.
Now, suppose it's not something that is, I'm being hypothetical, worst case scenario. And they said, well, and we find out, no, they're not, and they still say, no, yes, they are. And you can't do anything about it. Do you intercede, or does the owner have to do something legally?
You would have to do something legally. We don't really have any teeth to enforce that. You would have, because we wouldn't report it to fair housing. We would determine that that's not a violation or discrimination. So it's not like we would report it to fair housing. It's tough because you do run across difficult people all the time.
Yeah, because they've been in the system longer than we have. They know they've gotten away with versus.
I would encourage you not to worry about stuff like that because that rarely ever happens. Not with a pit bull. What you're going to find is people trying to assert rights for for companion animals.
Yeah.
And you have you can call me on a case-by-case basis.
I wouldn't,
Yeah, you can call me. If you run across a difficult participant and you need some advice, you can always call me. I'm going to look more into the ADA because it is a tricky rule, and we've had this conversation among staff a lot especially when the companion animals first came out on the scene and everybody had one. Well, they're not protected under ADA. They're not. So there might be some local policies that protect them. Yes, and it is up to the tenant to make the pet deposit fee. So they asked in the chat room, is it up to the tenant to make the pet deposit fee? And it is. We won't pay it. Okay? Any more questions on that?
No.
Okay, I think she's typing something.
Okay. Did you want to just set up the fee amount?
Yes. Yes, you do set your own fee amount. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Tú puedes poner cuánto vas a cobrar.
Okay. Are we good on pets?
Yes.
If not, you guys can just let me know. Mutual agreement. So this is a copy of a mutual agreement. Again, I will send that to you. So a mutual agreement is to either terminate or extend or cancel the lease contract. So basically, let's say your tenant said, hey, I want to move on September 1st. And so August the 10th comes around and your tenant says, hey, my apartment fell through, but I'm looking for another one. Can you extend the lease? Because what happens is if the tenant says they're moving, they notify you and they notify us. And we have to put them in the move process. So in so doing that, we put something in our software that says tenant moving as of August 30th. And so we tell the system not to pay the owner for September 1st rent, right? So you guys, if there's a change in that, then you guys have to get us this mutual agreement so that we can go in the system and change it and say, hey, tenant's not moving until September 30th, so go ahead and pay the owner for December. So that's extending the lease. Sometimes the tenant will say, hey, you know what? I changed my mind. Can I go ahead and stay here? So you guys can agree to cancel the lease contract termination. And you would still need to do that on this mutual agreement. Sometimes the tenant is like, hey,
ese contrato
it's August
es para
15th
cuando
and I'm
alguien
ready
se
to
va a
move.
mover. Ellos envían una
And so
notificación.
can you
Luego
go ahead and sign
ellos
this
la
mutual
reciben.
agreement because
Y
what
ya
happens
tienen
there
una
is we
fecha
can't
para
pay
cuando
two
esa
owners
persona se va a
for
mover,
the
hasta
same
esa
tenant,
fecha te van a pagar.
right?
Pero
So
con
if you agree to
tú
terminate
tienes
the
que
lease
dejar
before
ellos,
the lease contract
si
termination date, then
deciden
you would
ellos
have to pay us
quedarse,
back the money.
entonces tú tienes que enviar ese
Or half of the
documento
money, or
para que
whatever
si
prorated
ellos
amount of the money.
sepan
But that's
que la
between you and
persona
the
se va a quedar
tenant,
por más
you
tiempo
know, and this
o
has to be
por menos
signed by
tiempo,
both
como
you
sea,
and the
para que si
tenant.
ellos pueden ajustar
Okay?
la cantidad que te van a pagar.
Any questions on that? Mutual agreement, and we need it. And we need it before the lease contract termination date because we are moving into a policy where we are going to limit, well, for people who get this in late, we're going to limit the time where we can back pay you, okay? Because we've asked you to get it to us on time, right? So a lot of times people give this to us like 2 months later, and it's like we can't go back 2 months to pay you guys. So that's that on the mutual agreements. Let's see, what questions do we have? It needs to be submitted by the owner or the tenant, but typically the tenant, but it's about the owner's money. So if I were an owner, I wouldn't wait on the tenant to get this in. But it does have to be signed by both the owner and the tenant.
Okay, so tiene que
Yes.
ser firmado por los dos, tú y la persona que está
Okay,
rentando.
so it has to be signed by
Cualquiera
owner
de
and
estas
tenant.
personas
It has the tenant's name, the
pueden
owner's name,
enviar el documento,
and
pero
you check
menos
either
tú
one
lo
of these
envías porque
parts.
tú eres el
Are
que
you
ese
terminating, are you
documento
extending, or
está
are you
indicando
canceling?
que va,
Okay.
que va a ser pagado. Porque
Question.
la persona que está
Yes.
rentando puede decir,
On this
envío
mutual
como sea.
agreement, it has to be signed before the lease termination. So suppose that means
Sería
of
posible
the
que la
month,
fecha que
or for
estamos,
example, this is
las
for
personas que están
a year.
aprobadas se pueden mover para el primero del mes.
I mean, how would he mean
Si
before the
pasan las dos
lease termination?
inspecciones.
No por eso.
So,
Sí, es
so
posible.
Sí,
Puede decir que no
within the
toma más de 10
first
días, ¿no?
year, that's the only time you're in a 12-month
aproximadamente,
lease,
sí, todo
right?
depende si
Okay.
después
So
de la
you
primera
agree
de la
to
primera
terminate the
inspección
lease
no
within
hay
that first
ningún
year. If
ajuste
you
de que
guys
la
decide
segunda
this is
inspección
not
se
working
tenga que
out,
arreglar.
if your tenant doesn't like you and you don't like your tenant, and you guys mutually agree, hey, this relationship is not working, can we sign this? And you guys are both good to go. But more often than not, what happens is this comes into play when a tenant has told us they're moving, right?
So it's tenant initiated.
The move
Yeah.
process is tenant initiated, yes. And this, okay, so I must be saying it in a way that's confusing, I'm sorry. So a tenant is in the move process. So there are two scenarios. That first scenario, when you're in a year lease and it's not working out, you guys agree to terminate the lease, you do that by mutual agreement, okay?
Right.
So also when the tenant wants to move and they've given us a lease contract termination date, and it's maybe that's it, the way, maybe it's because it's called a lease contract termination form. It's not really for your year-long lease. It's really just for the amended contract that we initiated with you during the first initial contract, right? So we enter into a contract with you. It's the HAP contract. And we amend it every year with
Okay.
new rentals, right? But that's the lease contract that we're referring to,
Okay.
okay? And so this will end that lease contract if the tenant is moving. If the
So
tenant is
So after the initial contract, which is for a year, it goes to a biennial contract,
no, it goes to month to month.
or goes month to month? Okay, after the first year. Okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it reverts to month to month.
So they can leave at any time if they want to
They
move
have
to
to
another
give
location
proper notice. They have to give proper notice.
after the first year. Okay.
Okay. We good on mutual agreements?
Yeah, I am.
Okay.
bien con eso.
All right. We also have this form called family obligations. I'm not going through everything on the family obligations. It's long. But what I wanted to, I stuck this in the owner orientation folder because I wanted the owners to know that the tenant, you're protected by us through these family obligations. So the tenant agrees on these family obligations to not commit any crimes in your unit, to not destruct your unit, to, you know, this is also telling them that they have to supply us with everything that we ask for from them, that they must not have any lease violations. And so lease violations are what you include in your lease, in as far as them not interrupting others' freedom to enjoy the property, not doing any drug or criminal related activity, and things like that. No fraud, no violent or abusive behavior. All of these are in a family obligations contract that they sign and give to us, okay? So there's that. And then on the back of it, it has grounds for denial or termination of assistance. Okay, so this will be included in your orientation packet. All right. Okay. Let's see, where are we? Okay, so we're winding up. This is the HIP program. Okay, so these are for families who are homeless, and they come through us through the MSC. So this is included in the presentation. However, we have recently had a shortfall, so we don't really have new vouchers on the street. All of our people who are searching for units are in the move process, or maybe they're porting in or something like that, or maybe they're a veteran and they're coming through that program. But our agency is in a shortfall. We overspent our budget, so we had to put everybody back on the waiting list who hadn't leased up yet. So as such, we're not really able to use this program right now, because typically homeless families are people who have new vouchers and not people in the move process. Okay? But keep in mind, you may come across a homeless family. Maybe they moved out and their other unit wasn't ready or something like that, or they moved out, faced hard times, and was in their car. There could be any kind of reason. We have the Homeless Incentive Program, and it pays the security deposit, application fee, it buys furniture, stove, refrigerator, holding fees, and damage claims. Okay, and so these were incentives geared toward getting owners excited about renting to homeless families. There was a $2,000 cap on a damage claim that you could request if upon move out the family had damaged your property. And of course, that's over and above the security deposit. The good thing about this program was the security deposit went with the tenant. So if we paid their security deposit upon their move out, we would give that money to them and not to us. It paid all of their application fees. And we used to have holding fees, and what those were was the inspector would inspect the unit first and pass it as an empty unit, and you would agree not to market it to anyone but people in the HIP program. And so you would agree to take your unit off the market for 30 days, and I would send you referrals of homeless families or families experiencing homelessness. We had to stop doing that because, of course, like I said, we put everybody back on the waiting list. So it didn't make sense for us to pay holding fees for people who were not there. So that's that. Also, the program is funded by Measure H, which is a county tax that we all voted for. With COVID and the economy, the Measure H funds are limited. They have declined, they have decreased. So we're not really sure what's going to happen in this new fiscal year. So we're still kind of waiting. Any questions about the Homeless Incentive Program? Nope. Okay, so effects of COVID-19 on operations. All right. So our office is closed to the public and staff telecommutes. I am at home. Inspections can be virtual. We have a new phone system, which we'll get to on the other pages. Get your pens and pencils ready. We have new business hours, Monday through Friday, 7:30 to 4:30. Period. We used to have a variation on Wednesday. We used to close earlier on Friday and later on Mondays. And so because we are experiencing COVID-19, it's just straight across the board, 7:30 to 4:30. HUD has suspended evictions for non-payment of rent during COVID, okay? So if your tenant has not paid rent, unfortunately, you cannot evict them. Now, they will lift that, and the tenant still is responsible for the rent. So you still have a way of getting your rent back you just cannot evict anybody right now for non-payment of rent. Okay?
Temporary suspension of eviction.
Yes. Temporary suspension of evictions for non-payment of rent.
Is that just Section 8 or any renting facility?
That's anybody. That's everybody. Section 8, non-Section 8, everyone. Okay?
How about the credit? Reporting that non-payment as a credit issue as well.
None of that.
Can't do any of that. Okay.
'Cause a lot of people aren't paying rent because they're not working. Their
La
business
construcción 8
closed
ellos
up or
pagan siempre.
whatever. So they just made it across the board.
Yeah.
All right. So
Renee had a question.
yeah, we'll still pay our portion. We still pay our portion, yes.
But their portion, they be on. You have to wait to get it from them.
Yeah. Correct. We will keep paying our portion. Yes, correct. You have to keep track of it yourself. Yes, and that's tenant. They still will be responsible. So a lot of owners are working with the tenant. And so, see, the thing about it is, if the tenant loses their job, they just tell us and we decrease their portion. So honestly, the tenant shouldn't not be paying, but I'm just telling you that HUD said you can't evict for not payment. Because if the tenant, and this is regardless of COVID-19 or anything, but when the tenant loses their income, they let us know and we decrease their portion. That's the beauty of the program. That's why it's always good for owners to rent to Section 8 voucher holders, because when these folks lose their jobs, our portion increases and we end up paying all of the rent. So there really is no reason for a Section 8 voucher holder to not be paying their portion, because we have reviewed their finances and we have determined that what they can afford. So, yeah, when they lose their income, their portion increases accordingly. So, everybody's clear on that?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, new phone numbers. So, we've had to implement a new phone system because some of us, so we rotate on days coming into the office, right? And so somebody is always at the office and somebody is always manning these phones and emails. It's just that who they get distributed to has changed. So we've created bulk emails, for lack of a better word, and whoever is monitoring that email will distribute your request to the right person. So for general requests like move inquiries, rent increase questions, questions or concerns about your tenant, special inspection requests, and contract follow-up. This is the phone, fax, and email for you to reach out to for that. So go ahead and copy it down. This will also be something that I include in the email on Thursday, but until then, you may want to copy it down.
So like this.
let me know when you're ready to move on to the next slide.
Ready.
Okay.
Special inspection request. The special inspection request, isn't that prompted by the tenant, or is that prompted by
The owner too. Like if you remember a few slides back, we talked about if you suspect any kind of illegal activity, unauthorized persons, and things like that, then that's a special inspection request. And if you do suspect an unauthorized person, we would like it if you had a name, maybe a make and model of a car, license plate, or something like that. Okay?
facts? This is 24/7?
No. 7:30 to 4:30.
Oh, okay, getting ready to say someone is always there. Okay.
Monday through Friday.
Okay. Actually, I'm 65 miles away.
Okay.
So when I'm going to say, that's why I'm a new owner, right?
Right.
Email is HackLB at Long Beach. .gov. I'm finished.
Okay. All right. This is for rent inquiries. To submit rent increase request, this is important. When you want to submit a rent increase request or to follow up on a request, this is the number, fax, and email. Really, it's the email. As you can see, it's the same number. Is that the same number? I think that's the same number. For a rent increase request,
It is.
for the rent increase request, I would just email that email.
Oh, they did change the fax number.
Oh, yeah.
Got that many fax machines. Wow.
They go to an email. They're not real fax machines.
3, 4, 5, 2, 4.
So fax numbers switched to 4534 to 4524, right?
I didn't hear that.
And why would a person want to do a new increase request? They've been there for a year, and then they're gonna.
Thank you, Mr. Carruthers. You know, that might be a mistake. I'll look into that. Hold on a second. The fax number issue. She's told me that the fax number changed from 4534 to 4524.
It changed. The fax did change.
Let me see if that's not a mistake. That looks like it might be a mistake.
Transpose.
Probably. So I'll include that in the email as well. So what were you saying, Mr. Brothers?
What circumstance would one need to submit when the COVID-19 a new rent increase request? I understand following up on a previous one, but during this time, why would someone want to submit a new rent increase?
That's just our standard process. Some owners are, some owners aren't. You know, we're going to talk about rent increases anyway when it gets to AB 1482, which is a couple of slides ahead.
Okay, I hold it.
Yeah. But people are requesting rent increase. Okay? Inspections. These are the numbers and emails to follow up. on your request for inspections and or to submit any inspection related documentation.
Different phone number.
You know, that might be right because I see that fax number went up again to a 4. You see what I'm saying? Because it was 4524, then it's 4534, now it's 4544. So that might be right, but I'll confirm it in any case.
For the rent increase, I'm sorry. What was the email for the rent increase? New request? What was that email? LBHA. I'm so busy talking rent inquiries. So busy talking, I didn't see that rent inquiries at. That's good. Wow. Okay, you can go back to the new one,
Okay.
please.
All right. So that is inspections.
Wow. And there's a quicker response with the email than trying to call, right?
Yes.
Got it.
Got it? All right. Last is owner services. This email is monitored by Victoria Moon Fry.
Owner services. Okay.
Ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. AB 1482 and you. All right. So before COVID, there was AB 1482, which people have kind of forgotten about. So this law bans no-cause evictions and rent increases over a 5% base plus the existing consumer price index, which currently equals 5.7%. So I could have worded that better. AB 1482 is a new law that stops people from excessively increasing the rent and doing no-cause evictions. And so we have to follow these rules. And so we currently, there's a 5% baseline. And then consumer price index. Whatever that consumer price index is, we add that to the 5% baseline, and that is how much you can increase your rent by in a 12-month period, okay? Previously, it was 8.34%, okay? Because the baseline was 5 and the consumer price index was 3.4. So we were allowing owners to submit rent increase requests for no more than 8.3%. The consumer price index has changed. It is no longer 3.4%. It is now 0.7%. And that is because probably of COVID and the economy dropping, so the consumer price index dropped. So what that means is you cannot raise your rent by more than 5.7%.
Per month.
Okay, and for 12, if within a 12-month period. Okay, and that's for everybody. That's not just Section 8. And as a matter of fact, a lot of people thought that Section 8 should be exempt, but we are not. It is it's the City of Long Beach's position that HUD subsidies administered by us are not exempt from the law, which means that all housing choice voucher participants are covered under AB 1482. Okay? So there's that. You cannot increase your rent by more than 5.7%. And that's across the board, whether your tenant is being subsidized or not. So what does this mean for you? It means the housing authority will not accept, I should say, we will accept it, but we won't process it. Any rent exceed 5.7% of the current contract rent within a 12-month period. So what we usually do is, let's say that you submitted a request to increase the rent by 8%. We will run rent reasonableness with a 5.7% cap, and we will send you a letter saying, hey, I know that you asked for this, but due to AB 1482 and the current consumer index, we were not able to approve it. This is what we were able to approve it by. Do you accept or decline? Okay? And we'll usually do that via email, so you can let us know. Or we may also send a backup letter. Okay? And we will not accept any 60-day notices without cause, because that's also part of AB 1482. You cannot evict without cause.
What is the clause?
I think I'll go to that on the next slide. You have to have a just cause. No, maybe I don't. So just cause is divided into two categories: at fault evictions and evictions. So just cause at fault just causes is failure to pay rent, but remember moratorium on that. Breach of material lease term as defined by law, so a lease violation. Maintaining, committing, or permitting the maintenance or commission of a nuisance as defined by law. And I'm reading to you just causes, okay? And these are at fault. These are at fault just causes. Committing waste as defined by the law. So written lease terminated on or after January 2020. After a written request from the owner, the renter has refused to execute on a written extension or renewal of the lease based on similar lease terms.
What's that mean in English?
That means that you want to renew the lease and the tenant won't sign the renewal and the terms haven't changed. Criminal activity by the renter, including on the property, including any common areas, or criminal activity or criminal threat on and off the property that is directed at any owner or agent of the owner. Assigning or subletting, refusing the owner access to the unit, using the premises for unlawful purposes, failure to vacate after termination. So an employee, like a resident manager, agent, or licensee's failure to vacate after their termination. So like if their unit was a part of their pay and they got fired, they need to move. Failure to deliver possession of the unit following written notice of the owner or the rent's intention to terminate the lease. Okay? So they have no fault just causes. No fault is when it's not the tenant's fault, but it's a just cause. So intent by the owner or owner relative to occupy the unit. This includes the owner's spouse, domestic partner, children, grandchildren, parents, or grandparents only. Okay? Withdrawal of rental property from the rental market.
Okay.
Intent to demolish or substantially remodel the unit, and that means gutting. Like a lot of owners are trying to slide through on that loophole and say, hey, well, I'm about to rehabilitate the unit. That means gutting. That doesn't mean just painting and new carpets, okay? The owner is complying with the local ordinance, court order, or other government entity resulting in the need to vacate the property.
So in other words, if the owner wanted to sell the property or move it into the property themselves, that would be withdrawal from rental market.
Yeah, but you got to be careful with that. You moving in yourself. Yeah. But
Yeah. But if they decide to, they should withdraw from the rental market then.
that's kind of murky. Like, how do you do that?
Yeah, how do you?
So you just not going to rent it out? You just go put them out and like never rent out your unit again? I don't understand that one, but it's on there.
Yeah, I follow up. I just want to get an idea.
Yeah, withdraw from the market. That's on my list. But it sounds like that's a no fault eviction.
Yeah.
All right, so let's move along.
It's 5:49.
Okay, so we're almost done. So there's some exemptions. So deed restricted affordable housing, single family residences except those owned by corporations, REIs, or LLCs. So if this is let's say you had a starter house and you moved on to bigger and better things, and you have a starter house that you want to rent out, well, that's a single family residence. So you can evict them if they are not covered under AB 1482. Owner-occupied duplexes, and this is including ADUs. ADUs is it's like a mother-in-law. It's like a converted garage or something like that on your property, a separate, house or something. But it has to be. I think it's called accessory dwelling unit. That's what it is. New construction under 15 years. So all of those are exempt.
Exempt means they don't apply to AB 1482.
Correct. You can raise the rent. You can evict.
So, ¿qué pasó con la ADU?
Dice que esas unidades son.
That was a lot of information. I know. I tried to not bore you guys to tears. So, are there any follow-up question and answers? I do have my list of items that I need to email you guys about on Thursday. Some follow-up questions. But is there anything that you guys that we didn't discuss that you have questions about? Any clarification? All right. I think I'm going. Is there anything that you wanted me to go back on this screen? If not, I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
ADU. AB. Oh.
Not for me. Up 23rd. Thursday would be the 23rd of July.
Okay, so you want more information on okay, so ADU is an accessory dwelling unit. ADU accessory dwelling unit, and that's usually what they call converted garages, or if somebody builds like a thing in their backyard that's maybe just a single with a kitchenette in the bathroom. It's a back house, so to speak.
What does ADU stand for again?
Accessory dwelling unit. Now, about AB 1482, was there a specific question? What I can do is send you a link, because it's a very long and detailed bill. I tried to just snapshot some of the major points. But if there was a specific question, I'll try to answer it for you. Otherwise, I can send you the link to the entire bill. And they may even have it in Spanish so that you can read it too. Let's see. Yes, absolutely. The AB 1482 link. I will definitely include that. You're welcome. Okay.
¿Algo más?
All right, you guys. Well, thank you so much for joining me. We did it in 2 hours. I hope I didn't bore you to tears. I am going to follow up. I have a list of action items, and I will follow up with you guys on Thursday when I get back into the office, and I'll have the answers for these questions for you. Okay?
Thank you very much, Carrie.
You are welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
So long.
Bye-bye.